Hi, everybody.
Ah, there she is. She came out to say hello.
There's WenDee. She's going to help me. Let me say a few words. Just stay
Okay,
right here.
all right.
Okay. So we met a lot of you in 2019 when we came to the library to do an in-person PowerPoint about what there is to see and do in Kansas. And we're back now to feature one of our rural culture elements. We have 8. So we define rural culture as the combination of architecture, art, commerce, cuisine, customs, geography, history, and people. So today we're doing a program for you on architecture. If you are expecting details about architecture, you won't get it here. We basically want to help you know about architectural things to see and do in Kansas, or let me replace that word with just structures of any kind. And most of these, I'd say 98% of the ones we'll talk about today are in our Kansas Guidebook 2 for Explorers. So with that, I'll have WenDee help me get the program on the screen and we'll go from there. Okay. Now, I really miss seeing your faces while we're doing this, but we'll do our best. So here we have the architecture of Kansas. And I just want to start with an overview of types of architecture from the sod house. There's a number in Kansas, but this one is at the Santa Fe Trail Center near Larned. Sometime you'll find interesting structures out in the field, like this one south of Monument in Logan County. This is a Sears Roebuck catalog house next to the carousel in the small town of Wilmore in Comanche County. And then there's so many beautiful homes in the state. This is one located in Atchison. So that's just sort of a range of types of houses we can see or structures we can see in Kansas. I have a few categories that we'll look at today, and we'll start with banks. So this is the Condon Bank in 1892. This is the last bank that the Dalton gang robbed before they were killed or caught. So this is that bank still standing and being used by the Chamber of Commerce in Coffeyville. This bank, the Ness County Bank, is known as the skyscraper of the plains, the largest building west of the Mississippi at its time, built in 1890. It's now restored and it's used for a multitude of community purposes, but it's really beautiful. This is a detail. You can see Ness County Bank there. And we have a former barn that is now a bank, and it's located in Bendina. And it was converted into a bank in 1985. So you're welcome to go inside the bank. They have some historic photos. They'd be glad to see you there. This is in Donovan County. Let's take a look at some barns. This is the Cooper Barn, one of the 8 wonders of Kansas architecture, built in 1936 to house Hereford show cattle. It was moved to the location here at the Prairie Museum of Art and History in Colby, and it was moved 16 miles to this location. So at the time that we did the guidebook and the 8 wonders of Kansas, it was the largest publicly accessible barn in the state. And you can still go to it and go inside and look around. This barn, the Collingwood Barn near Pretty Prairie, built in 1913, has more square footage than the Cooper Barn, and it is now publicly accessible. It's been completed since we took this picture. It's now open for wedding parties and other kind of events located near Pretty Prairie. The Whitewater Falls Stock Farm has been restored. It's located near Towanda, built in 1908 to house percherons. J.W. Robinson bred percherons here, But this barn had 50 stalls, gas lights, its own water plant, and you can see that it had a balcony as well. So there were parties here at times, but it's really beautiful. And if you take the back road there, there's a low water bridge to get to the stock farm. This stone barn, built in 1861, sits out in a field near Robinson in Brown County. I forgot to put the county on this. It's in Brown County. And in its day, horse and mules were housed on the first floor and their hay and grain on the second floor. It's open to you now if you want to go there. And there's stairs up to the top. You can see some displays. But we thank the owners for keeping it in great shape, and nice that we can go inside this barn. So some other type of structures are bridges. I love the bridges of Kansas. This is a marsh arched bridge. They're also known as rainbow bridges. This one is on Route 66 in Cherokee County. It's a single arched rainbow arch bridge, and you can no longer drive your car over it, but you can walk over it. So that's fun. It's almost better. So you can walk over it, take photos. So that's on Route 66. And I bet some of you recognize this. Maybe some of you drive over it every day. It's the John Mack Bridge in Wichita, and it's the longest marsh rainbow bridge still open to vehicular traffic. I believe there's 8 arches on this. It's really beautiful, and there's even a pedestrian walkway, so you can walk the bridge as well. Built in 1931. We have a number of stone arch bridges in the state. In some cases, it's hard to see them because they're under the road, so you have to really be looking for them. This is probably the most iconic stone arch bridge in the state. It's located in Chase County at Clements. It was built in 1886. It's no longer open to traffic. In fact, they changed the road so people wouldn't drive over it. But there's directions in the guidebook, and you can drive up to it and then walk over it, or you can even walk a trail down below. And if you can look closely, you'll see that 1888, or is that 86? 1888 little name stone there that says that J.P. Santee was the company that built the bridge. Ness County has quite a number of stone arch bridges. This is one over the Pawnee River tributary in Ness County, built in 1928. It's in great shape, and it's just really fun to come across these bridges. But again, you've got to keep your eyes open to find them. We also have a number of iron truss bridges in the state. This one has closed in recent years. It's in Butler County. Blow Dark was a little town, and this bridge is over the Little Walnut River, right close to the remnants of this little town. You can see the wooden planks. So it was one-way traffic, 102 foot long. And it's fun to walk over now. We still were able to drive over it when we found this bridge, and it was a little scary to drive over it, but lots of fun. So would urge you to go find this little burg and take a walk over the bridge. Here's another one of my favorite Pratt Iron Truss bridges. It's located outside of Maple Hill in Wabaunsee County, over Mill Creek. And you know, some of these places, there's not a lot of traffic, so you can just park and walk over the bridge and take some photographs. This was another one of our 8 Wonders of Kansas Architecture finalists, the mighty Samson of the Cimarron. So it's over the Cimarron River Valley. It's 100 foot over the riverbed, but it was built in 1939 because the former bridge was causing problems to the railroad. It had a hairpin curve. And there were a number of times where the train was lost into the river. Water flowed more at that time on the Cimarron River, but this was considered an engineering marvel of its day, 1,269 foot long. And you can see those pillars, they kind of have an Art Deco look to them. Here's another look from afar. It's in Seward County between Liberal and Kismet on US 54. So let's look at ceilings and floors. How could that be interesting? Well, we'll start at the Stafford First Methodist Episcopal Church. And when you go inside, you'll see this gorgeous ceiling of stained glass. And you can see the balcony on the side. I think the next picture. Yeah, so you can get a look at this church. It was built by Don Schuler, who used to work with Frank Lloyd Wright. So you can see some of Frank Lloyd Wright's design in this beautiful church. This is the Franklin County Courthouse in Ottawa, the first one built by renowned architect George Washburn, who lived in Ottawa. And it still has a very historic courtroom with an interesting ceiling pattern. So I'm not even sure what that pattern is called, but it's very striking. And this is a look. They no longer use this courtroom for official business, but has the wooden chairs, and it's just very historic. This is the Muchnick House in Atchison. Now houses an art gallery built in 1885. It has a beautiful parquet floor. So if you go to the art gallery, you'll get to see this floor on the second story. So Kansas has a lot of beautiful churches. Let's concentrate on the ceilings. This is the Cathedral of the Plains in Victoria, also known, well, its real name is St. Fidelis Church. It was dubbed Cathedral of the Plains by William Jennings Bryan, a presidential candidate who came here in 1912, I want to say 1918, to campaign for president, and he dubbed it Cathedral of the Plains. It was the largest or tallest building west of the Mississippi at that time. So let's go inside. It houses 1,100 people. Those beautiful pillars were from granite shipped in from Vermont. Beautiful arched ceiling. And one of the 8 wonders of Kansas architecture. Ellis County has many churches that are very beautiful. This one is in the unincorporated town of Piper, again in Ellis County. Built in 1918, that spire is 165 foot tall. And even though it's no longer used for services, although I think they have some weddings and funerals there, it's so beautiful. The vaulted ceilings are. The colors are a wonderful pastel green and this mauve color. So it's just a gorgeous place. If you're ever in that area, do stop in to see the interior. This church is also in Northwest Kansas, St. Joseph's Church in DeMar in Rooks County. The double steeples can be seen for miles away. And this church has a light blue color that is most prevalent when you walk inside. And a lot of these churches are open, so be respectful and go on in. This is the 1894 church in the very small town, unincorporated, of St. Benedict in Nemaha County, just west of Seneca. It has an award-winning interior. In 1901, G.F. Sartori painted the ceiling with bands and friezes, and the columns and the ceiling. It's just jaw-dropping when you walk in. And this was one of our 8 wonders of Kansas art. It belonged in the art category. Let's see some things that are in the round. Can you believe that this is a home now? It was a grain bin scale office, but they've now converted it, the Emkeys have, into a home, and it's in a grain bin. It's located out in the country in Lane County. You're welcome to drive by. And if you're lucky, someone might be around and show you the inside, but it's even really interesting just to drive by and see the outside. This is the From Bernie Round Barn near Mullinville, built in 1912. It stands out in the field where it was originally built. You can go inside. It's there's a door. It's never locked. It's always open. In fact, there's a little gift shop. And if you want to buy something, there's a place to deposit your money. It's on the honor system. This, you can go up to the loft and look up, and this is the ceiling of the round barn. So Mullinville is west of Greensburg. And in Greensburg, you'd find the round big well. If you haven't been there since the tornado, they put in this spiral staircase to the bottom, which feels a little more sturdy than that old iron ladder. Built in 1888, this is the largest hand-dug well in the world. And it was built by hand using mules as well when it was built. So let's think in terms of color. And we're talking about architectural materials here. These green buildings in Hill City, and there's a number of them, were not painted. This is the color of the rock that came from a nearby quarry. It's tightly cemented sandstone, and it's this color. And so this is City Hall. This is the band shell in this city park in Hill City in Graham County, and there's a few other structures in town as well. So that's the green color. Dakota sandstone would be the brown color, and two of the more famous structures of Dakota sandstone are this, what you might call a castle, built by the WPA in the 1930s at Coronado Heights, located near Lindsborg. And you see some people up there on kind of the balcony. Right now, if you'd go today, you'd see yucca plants. They're in bloom right now, and it's very beautiful. Another famous Dakota sandstone structure or structures would be located at Fort Larned in Pawnee County. There's quite a number of structures, very authentic from when Fort Larned was built to help usher Santa Fe Trail wagons through, and that was their basic purpose. This is a mid-century modern architecture home in Fort Scott. So when we were researching for the guidebook, we were driving around and came upon this structure, complete with a fake palm tree that you can see there on the right. But really interesting to see that home. Would love to see the inside. So let's look at some courthouses, maybe just a variety. This is the oldest continuously used courthouse in the state, built in 1873. It's the Chase County Courthouse, and it was designed by John Haskell, who is the main architect for the state capitol. And it was done in the French Renaissance style, also known as Second Empire. And can you see that oval window there? So if you go in, you can go up the staircase and look out that window, which overlooks downtown Cottonwood Falls. You can also see the old jail that's inside the courthouse. Another style built with limestone is the 1900 Lincoln County Courthouse, done in Romanesque revival. Very beautiful. And this is more modern. It's the courthouse in Great Bend, built in 1918, classical eclecticism. And you'll see in front a statue of Jack Kilby, the man who invented the microchip. He was from Great Bend. And please feel free to go inside these courthouses. They're beautiful on the outside, but also on the inside. Made of brick and limestone, this is the Rawlins County Courthouse in Atwood, built in 1907. We have 4 courthouses in the state, no longer courthouses, that are now museums. One of them is in Russell Springs. It's now the Butterfield Trail Museum. Logan County was the last county to transfer their county seat from one town to another. In 1963, it moved from Russell Springs to Oakley. The Greeley County Museum, or the former Greeley County Courthouse in Tribune, Kansas, is now a museum. It was built in 1890. Very stately and beautiful structure. This one has a different exterior than almost any other one in Kansas, the former Marshall County Courthouse. It's now the Historic Courthouse Museum, and it tells the story of all the different towns in Marshall County. It's very beautiful. And you'll recognize this one, formerly the Sedgwick County Courthouse, now the Wichita Sedgwick County Museum. And it's wonderful to have a reason to be able to go inside a structure like this. Our friend Jamie Fraser Tracy does a great job with exhibits here, as well as others. Depots, quite a range. This is the town of Cedar, the city of Cedar in Smith County. They used their 1879 Missouri Pacific Depot as kind of a community gathering place. This is the depot in Ottawa, a former Santa Fe depot built in 1888. It now houses the local museum in Ottawa. And this is the backside, and the Prairie Spirit Trail starts right outside here. So it's a nice area to rest before you go off on your bike ride. This is the longest depot in the state, the Santa Fe Depot in Newton, 1929. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It was modeled after Shakespeare's Stratford-upon-Avon, and now houses a number of businesses, including Amtrak. So lucky us, we can all still walk inside and check out the interior of this depot. Even jails are interesting in Kansas. This is a circular round jail in the town of Wilson, built in 1907. It's in an alley, so you kind of have to watch for it, but there's a sign that tells about it. And even though these are the ruins of the 1873 jail in Ellsworth, I find it very compelling. And they have a historic marker right in front. But I'm very grateful that they kept the ruins. It was really a smart way to do it. They didn't have enough money to restore it, so they kept the ruins and put a historic marker in front. This is also a jail if you look closely. It's behind the Osage County Courthouse in Linden. And I think it doubles as the power plant, actually. But if you look, you'll see some of the jail doors, and you'll see some bars on that far window as well. So if you keep your eyes open, you'll find so many interesting detail and architecture around the state. This is probably the smallest still working library in the state. This is the Wisner Library in the town of Sharon in Barber County. Wisner was a local family. This is the second oldest Carnegie Library in the state, known as the Anderson Memorial Library. And I believe it's been restored since we went there to research for the guidebook, but you can go inside and the cupola at the top is really beautiful from the inside. This is the smallest Carnegie Library in the state, found in Linden. The city of Downs has one that's just slightly bigger. Downs is in Osborne County. The most recently built Carnegie Library is in Canton, and they've just expanded. So if you want to see a list of all the Carnegie Library, you can find it on Google. And it's kind of fun to go out and around the state looking for all of them to see what they look like now. Many are still open, others have taken on a different purpose. Let's look at some mansions in the state. This is the Brown Mansion in Coffeyville, built by W.P. Brown. He was a natural gas magnate, so he made lots of money to be able to afford this. It's a very beautiful building, now a museum. Notice the pillars in the front. They incorporated them inside the home. They also have some Tiffany windows as that you can see on the right side there. But keep looking at the pillars. They also incorporated them into the beautiful backyard. And I can only imagine what it looked like back in the day when they probably did a lot more to landscape this backyard. The other famous mansion in the state is the Seeley Mansion in Abilene. A.B. Seeley was a pharmaceutical, an early pharmaceutical, well, what would we call him? A magnate. He invented like all sorts of funny name pharmaceuticals. But this house was built in 1905. It's a Georgian style, 25 rooms. It has a bowling alley in it. Terry Tegens will give you the tour, and if you ask him, he may play on the piano as well. He lives there. It's a beautiful place. This is an inside shot. If you can look closely at the fireplace, you'll see that it, I don't know that you can see, but it's tiny tiles that make up the facade of the fireplace. And on the grounds is this beautiful gazebo. There's a number of weddings that take place there. Okay, let's look at some specialty houses. This is the Belmont Castle located near Independence. An immigrant from Switzerland who grew up in the shadows of the Belmont Castle in Switzerland wanted to live in such a castle one day. Well, she moved to the United States and she met a man, they married, and she told him about her dream. So he replicated the castle the best he could in a very modest way. And if you'll look closely at the word Belmont there, you'll see that it's spelled out using the bottom of green glass bottles. So she got her Belmont Castle, and I think she was plenty pleased with how it turned out. Another specialty house, if you want to call it that, is the Lestron homes, built in 1946 to 1950, right after World War II. They were prefabricated so they could be easily assembled and shipped. There are 18 of them in Great Bend. So Great Bend is known as the Lestron home capital of Kansas. The one you're looking at is located on the Barton County Historical Complex. And you can even go inside to see that all the walls in the home are made of metal. The shelving's made of metal. So it's definitely a unique place, all metal. This is a church that was built in 1861. I should say this is what's left of the church. It was hit by a tornado a number of years ago, and it destroyed the original church. But instead of restoring the entire church, they decided to go with this format, which I think is just beautiful and spiritual in its own way. So this is located outside of Chapman, which is in Dickinson County. And if you look at the wrought iron stair railing, you can even see twisted parts of the railing due to the tornado. So this is the last segment, To the Sky. 62 steps up will take you to the top of this observation silo in Coffee County, overlooking the nuclear plant. But they have a spiral staircase to the top in a wildlife area. So it's kind of fun to go clear up there and look out. This is the Mitchell County Courthouse in Beloit. It's famous for a number of reasons. One, because it's very beautiful. It has a clock tower, but it's the only courthouse in the state that has a screen door at the front door. When we went, we were invited right off the bat to go to the very top of the clock tower. You can see the clock face from the inside there on the right of the screen. And this little girl went up with us. And the story was that she went up as many times as she could, but it was the maintenance man that took us up, and we could see the inner workings of the clock. So that was really special to be able to see that. This is one of the oldest concrete grain elevators in the state, located in Chapman, built in 1917. To the side, out of the picture of this, is a slightly older concrete grain elevator built in 1911 that you can see as well. And they have a big banner hanging on it announcing that Joe Engle, an astronaut, was born in Chapman. There's a number of very fascinating water towers in the state, another structure type that we like to feature. Weir is located in Cherokee County, and we've just found out that Weir is the home of the fly swatter. It's where Samuel Crumbine lived when he invented the fly swatter. But this is a 1889 water tower. The top tank blew off at some point, so they no longer use this water tower, but it's still a impressive structure in this small town. In the town of Cherokee, which is located in Crawford County, also in southeast Kansas, you'll find this water tower that was built in 1896. You can see there's sort of a nameplate on top of that door a little ways, embedded into the brick. The city clerk told us a few years ago that this was the 8th oldest water tower in the nation still being used. And then finally, we want to end by taking you to Paradise. This 1938 water tower is right behind the sign of the town of Paradise, which is located in Russell County. The water tower was built by the WPA, and lots of people like to take their picture in Paradise. So that's something you can do here. And in the warm season, they always have lovely flowers in front. So folks, that is the end of our show. I wasn't sure how long it would take. So all I want to say is that we hope you have fun getting out, whether you use our guidebook or not, just to focus on different structures, to look around at whether it's bridges or water towers or different kind of homes or downtown businesses. Just focus on the structures and see how they differ from town to town or how they might be the same. In some parts of the state, you'll see more red brick. In others, you'll see more limestone. When you see Dakota sandstone, you know it's because that's the resource that's available. So Sarah and Sarah, let's see if there's any questions, and we'll get out of, should I do stop share?
Awesome. So many cool things in Kansas if you just take a little time to go find them. So thank you for taking us on a little tour. So far, no questions, but I do invite anyone who has them to type them in. We did have our chat monitor today did want to remind everyone about our podcast that we have. It's tied into our Read ICT challenge, but this month's category that we focused on was local history or regional history. And so we interviewed Jamie from the Wichita Sedgwick County Historical Museum. So it ties in really nicely with some of the things that you talked about today. Okay, question coming in. Can you tell us about the Kansas Sampler from somebody who is not a Kansas native?
Well, sure. Thanks for that question. I'll be brief, but the Kansas Sampler Foundation is a nonprofit that my dad and I started in 1993. And we wrote our first guidebook in 1990 and realized that at that time, many Kansans didn't know much about their own state. So we wanted to write guidebooks, but also start a nonprofit to help tell the story of Kansas, but also support small communities in a way that shared information about how to sustain the town. I do want to say that some people, especially in Wichita, Topeka, or Kansas City, where Kansas Sampler stores are located, often wonder if we're connected, and we are not. We are a nonprofit located here in tiny Inman, Kansas, in McPherson County. But thanks for asking. We do have a website, kansassampler.org, if you'd like to go there and learn more.
Awesome. Just a comment, someone from Wilmore, Kansas was really excited to see the Sears house. It was immediately recognizable, though sad to not see the carousel that was also featured.
Yes.
And then, oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Well, that carousel was it's very well loved. And the Griffiths, who own the house, also brought in the carousel, complete with organ music and horses and teacups that go around. When we did our first Big Kansas road trip, Comanche County was one of the counties in that road trip, and people loved going into this tiny town of Wilmore, around 80 population, to ride the carousel and to take tours of the house. So glad you recognized that, and it's a wonderful place. Yes.
And then we did have a question about what the name of the guidebook is. I believe it's the Kansas Guidebook for Explorers.
It's almost, let's put a 2 behind it, Kansas Guidebook 2 for Explorers. We wrote an earlier one. This one is the updated version, and we're working on updating it even more online. So stay tuned for information about seeing it online. You can get it at Watermark, at the Sedgwick County Wichita Museum, Great Plains Nature Center, or at kansassampler.org.
You can also check it out from the Wichita Public Library. I noticed that we have several copies in our collection as well. Okay, what is the best way to see the insides of some of these cool buildings?
Well, many of them are open to the public, like the courthouses and the churches usually are. The Seeley Mansion has a fee, as does the Brown Mansion, but I'm not trying to push our guidebook, but you could either look in there for that kind of information or just Google and you'll get the same info.
Okay, and then have you ever visited the courthouse in Hutchinson? They have an old elevator with operator and the fancy murals and decor. So
Thanks for mentioning the Reno County Courthouse. It is awesome. It looks austere from the outside, but it's got so many beautiful features inside, including some Japanese inlay, and that elevator you speak of is fun to use, but very beautiful on the inside. I did want to mention that Lustron home that we showed is also open for tour at the Barton County Historical Complex in Great Bend.
great. I think, you know, if anybody's looking for a road trip, there's plenty to see in Kansas, right? Don't have to even leave our state. Do you know how many round barns there are in Kansas?
Only a handful, and fewer every year. They, I would say there's less than 8. That's approximately correct. The Bernie Fromme round barn that we showed at Mullinville is really the only one that's open to the public. So, and it's been well restored. So that's the one to go to really check out what a round barn is. And they have storyboards inside of there to explain why some barns were made in the round.
Okay, good tip. And then as far as driving the historic Route 66, how many bridges in Kansas can you drive over? Do you know, or are most of them just available for walking?
Well, there's only 13.1 miles of Route 66 in Kansas, down there in Cherokee County, and that's the only bridge on that route. But when you ask how many bridges can you drive over in Kansas, there are many, many historic bridges, from the ones under the road, the stone arch bridges, to the iron truss bridges that are above. Some of them are being condemned, and so there's fewer all the time. But as far as the marsh arch bridges, there's probably less than 20 in the state. And I did in the slideshow, that was in there. So one place to find out about historic bridges is bridgehunter.com. That's a great source for finding historic bridges.
I just typed that into the chat. So, and then just a couple more comments about someone having been raised in Cedar, so definitely have been to that site that you shared, and someone else shared how much they love the Seeley Mansion. So that's always fun.
Yeah, I want to say about Cedar, when we went there to research for the guidebook, we parked and our car is wrapped, so it's kind of, it draws attention, but we were walking around the depot, and some friendly young man came up, and he had a key, and he let us in, and he told us all about it and about the Cedar picnic, and how, I mean, it's a very small town, probably less than 50 people, and how that number multiplies for their annual event there in front of the depot. So we have fond memories of Cedar, as well as the Seeley Mansion, which is just a wonderful, wonderful place.
A question, have you heard about the Rails to Trails project? I'm not sure what particular aspect of the Rails to Trails project, but tell us what you know.
Okay, well, there's a growing number of Rails to Trails projects around the state. The most famous one is the Prairie Spirit Trail, which follows an old railroad bed from Ottawa to Iola. That's about 51 miles. And now Iola to Humboldt they've added another trail, which is the Southwind Trail. But the Prairie Spirit Trail is now our first linear state park. But there are more bike trails all the time. Oh, WenDee just said there's 24 total rail to trail projects in the state now, which is amazing and wonderful.
I think we've got a few here in Wichita, and then yes, the two that are big state They're on the state park website, so they're on my list. Okay, a couple more programs. What is the site that you had mentioned to find all the Carnegie libraries?
WenDee will look that up right now, but I would just Google the Carnegie libraries. I know you have to go to Kansas, but we'll try to get that to you, Sarah, to get in the chat room there.
Okay, perfect. More comments sharing the Redbud Trail. That's the one here in Wichita, I think, is fabulous. That a rail trail. And then just somebody who shared that they really enjoyed the program today.
Great.
And I will point out, as we're kind of winding down to the end of our list of questions, I have shared a link to the survey for today's program in our chat box. So we would really appreciate it if you would take that. It can take a few minutes to load, but we do review those, and your feedback is always welcome to us. Did you have something to add, Marci?
No. So we haven't come up with the Carnegie Library stuff. Hold it. Oh, well, tell it to me and I'll put it in the chat.
It's at the State Historical Society, so kshs.org.
Sarah, I'll tell you, kshs.org /NATREG
NATRED
REG
G Nat Registry, got it.
underscore
thematics
/
view
view / 5. And
number 5.
that'll take them to Carnegie Libraries. Okay. Carnegie Library is not in that URL, but
It's on the State Historical.
and if you can't, if I didn't give it to Sarah correctly, just go to the kshs.org and that's where you'll find it.
Yeah, it's not coming up. I just tested it, but
Okay.
probably you can just Google the Kansas libraries and then find the one from the Kansas State Historical Society, right? Is that what you gave it me?
WenDee went right to KSHS. I think. Okay, we're gonna type it in.
Okay.
Yes,
In the meantime, there was a question that is one for me, actually. When will these programs be held at the library again? And let me just tell you all that we're very hopeful that we can resume at some point in the future, but probably not before the end of this year. We are anticipating continued social distancing measures, and so we are playing it very safe. And so for the foreseeable future, we're planning for them to be in person, or I'm sorry, online. However, you know, we are keeping our options open, and if we can resume them even sooner, then we will absolutely plan to do that. But you'll all be knowing as soon as we know. Okay. And Mike was able to share that link into the chat box. So thanks, Mike. And thank you for your comment about liking this format. We know that everybody's getting a little bit of that Zoom fatigue. And so, but this does, you know, the Zoom virtual format does give us some opportunities that in person doesn't always offer. So anyway, and thanks, Rob, for sharing the Wikipedia list of the Carnegie libraries in Kansas. So do we have any other questions coming in?
I just want to say that was just a touch, just a sample of architecture in the state. I mean, every town has some kind of interesting architecture. And you can often tell when a downtown is burned and it's got a more modern, you know, the whole town looks like it just started maybe in the 1920s or something. So anyway, there's a lot to learn by just looking at structures, and it makes architecture interesting to look for this variety.
And I'm sure that once you start noticing like the clues for things, then you can start picking them out, like you mentioned with the jails, and taking note of all the details. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
We did have a question about you specifically. When will your next presentation be, and what do you plan to cover?
Well,
Give yourself a little shout out.
That may be up to the Wichita Library, but we did talk at one point that we could do a program for all 8 elements. It depends on how often you can all tolerate a presentation from us, but we would just maybe go through the order and art would be next, which would be fun. So I'll leave it up to maybe Julie to contact me about that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll be in touch then. Okay, Marci.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I'll give you all a chance, and I will go ahead and just go ahead and thank everyone for attending today's program. Thank you for your comments. It's always fun when you are all engaged, and you're very engaged in this topic. Like I mentioned, and I will share it again, I've shared the link to the survey in the chat box. So please do fill that out. And then we just want to say thank you again to Marci and WenDee of the Kansas Sampler Foundation. Any other questions? And then I guess I'll give a quick shout out to our next program. Hey, WenDee, thanks so much for your background help.
Thanks for having us. Can't wait for next time.
I will give a shout out to our next month's program. We're going to have Opera Kansas about their upcoming production Stagger Wing. It sounds really cool. There's going to be a bit of a performance. We're going to talk to the both the composer and some of the singers, which there's an actual, word for it. I think librettist. We're going to talk to the librettist from Stagger Wing. So if you register before July 7th, as part of your registration, you can actually submit a comment about the subject matter of Stagger Wing, or you can submit a question about opera in Kansas, and they will cover that in their presentation. So it's another way for you to be engaged in next month's Senior Wednesday program. For more information, you can go to our website, wichitalibrary.org/events. Still no questions, so we'll just say thank you to Marci and WenDee one more time. Thank you to all of you, and with that, we will end tonight's this evening. I cannot talk, you all. We will end today's presentation.